So this is just a really simple form. Again, you can do the lookups here at the top just to be able to target the record, um, matching or not, and be able to update that way. So then once you target the right record, then you can start dealing with what data do you want to be pushing into Salesforce. And since you already did the mapping from the front end, from the import, this is already mapped. You don't have to go in and do that. But if you don't do that import tool and just create a form on your own and then come in and do the connector, you're going to have to do these on your own, and I'll show you how that works. But so say you have the email field here. You want to map it to the email. So we're going to hit edit. Maybe there's like a secondary email in Salesforce. Maybe we're going to look at the work email. So maybe this is a contact form for people employed somewhere, like you're sending it out to like a corporate partner like GE or Deutsche Bank or something, and you're having them fill out like an attendee form for an event or anything really, whatever that contact form is for. So you know all these people that are filling it out, if you're asking for the work email in the form, you want to send it to that. So sometimes there's going to be multiple options there depending on what data you're collecting. There's just the standard email field, there's personal email, there's work email, there's multiple email fields there, and the same with other fields too, or other data that you're collecting. But just like you're looking at those different options for a filter, you can do that for a form too. So maybe you know that by someone filling out this form, because it's Chicago, you know that you want to set up the owner as someone. Like you want that contact when it's created or updated to then be updated or owned by either marketing, or maybe if it's from Chicago, it would be Michelle. So when you do that, you can say, okay, when this contact gets updated or added, mark the owner as this person. So when it says owner ID, that means you need to get the ID from the owner in Salesforce. And so this would be a pretty unique scenario. This doesn't happen that often, but you can get an ID from that user's profile in Salesforce. So maybe you want that to be owned by marketing. So you would come to marketing, and this digit, it's 15-digit ID, in between this backslash and the question mark is their unique ID. So if someone's filling out a contact form and you want them to be owned by you, by the marketing account, it's a marketing contact, you would go in and get that ID and then say a formula or text and then put in that ID and hit confirm.
Okay.
But maybe oh, go ahead.
So I was going to ask, like, what, the main place that my head is right now is, is figuring out how to do this so that we can, when we're replacing, if we're going to replace the forms that we have on the site right now for email sign up.
Yep.
So like, I guess in that scenario, like right now we have the integration with MailChimp
from
and Salesforce.
Yep.
Yeah. So when someone's signing up on the website right now using one of those MailChimp forms,
it's going directly to MailChimp.
Yeah, but we're passing that data from MailChimp into Salesforce, right?
Yeah. Yep. So some of these forms, and I won't save this one because we're not using it, but you also have these other options. Now, MailChimp isn't one of these other options on this form, but it might be in the future. So you might be able to just grab this just like you do with the other form and connect it directly into MailChimp. But based off of the integration we have from Salesforce to MailChimp, those syncs go in and grab those people. And so if you were doing this one, just look at this sync in MailChimp, which is basically them having a valid email address and not opting out of email. So as long as you can, even by them filling out this form, you can either put like a checkbox on the form to say I'm opting into email, or by the nature of them filling out that form, they're subscribing, and you don't need to have them check a box. You could just do, if you don't have to collect the data in Salesforce or in the form for it to pass into Salesforce. So if you do a checkbox, you can say the email opt out, and you can go in and select that field to say, if they've opted out, then you can connect it that way. But by them filling out this form, and maybe you don't want to put a checkbox in there, and just by the nature of them filling out the form, they're agreeing to opt into email. You can say, just through a formula or text, what that option is. So if by them filling out the form they're opting out, you can put in true there, and that will mark that box as true. They're opting out of email when they fill out that form. But if you want it to just mark that as false, that they're opting in, that they're not opting out of email, you can put false in there and hit confirm. So if you do want a checkbox or a yes or no question in there, and I'll show you on another form how this works. We just don't have a field for it here. When you do a multiple choice selection, so say I'm opting in to receive emails, yes or no, or it's a checkbox, there's going to be two slots here. One will say yes equals and no equals. If those were your options, you could say yes equals false, or true, that means they're opting out, and no equals false because that means they're opting in. And I'll show you that on an actual form where it uses it. But if you have a multiple choice answer, you can say what the data is that goes into Salesforce too. So let's actually go to a form to look at. Yeah, this chapter member one's not bad. It's got 740 responses so far. So let's actually look at the form first so you can see. So on this form, we have a lot of things going on. We have chapter, which they go in and actually select their chapter that they're a part of, which is interesting because if you do something like this where you want a pre-selected answer to have it update their record in Salesforce, you have to put in a unique ID there. So each one of these schools has an ID that ties it into Salesforce, and I'll show you that in the connector. But we have basic contact details like a contact form, whether or not they're applying for track, and if they're an officer for their chapter.
So this is an internal form that the chapter team's using to input new chapter members?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So when a chapter gets created, or it's a new school year for a previous created chapter, they'll just send this out to the chapter leader, and they'll disperse it among their members of the chapter, and then everyone from the chapter will fill it out. And this also gets sent to them automatically when they create a Stay Classy page for chapters. So in the follow-up from Stay Classy, I have it just fire off to that person that created the form or the page, and it asks them to fill out the details for it. Because we don't get all these details in Stay Classy, not this in depth. We get like their name and their email, but we don't know what chapter they're connected to, and we don't know like their officer position or what their role is at that chapter. So if they say, so you can put like different options here on the form, and then when that goes into the connector, you can choose where that data goes to. So if we go to
we're just looking at this one as an example right now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. If I just assume like if there's if this is a helpful example, great. But like, if there's like any ongoing like maintenance with this that
No.
you might
Yeah, you're not going to be doing any maintenance. Yeah,
team
yeah.
are taking care of that.
No, yeah, that's taken care of. Don't worry about that.
Since we're back here to looking at this, so the connectors that are here are these just the ones that we have enabled right now, or are these all the options that
These
are
are all
available?
the options for FormAssembly right now.
So
So
they don't have a Mailchimp integration right now.
no, they don't have a direct one to MailChimp. You can use HTTP, which you can create your own connection, but there's not a direct connection to MailChimp. But MailChimp has a connection with Salesforce, so if a record gets created in Salesforce, it'll automatically go to MailChimp via Salesforce.
Okay, okay. Now I see. I had bookmarked. I haven't watched this video or slide share that I found on the FormAssembly site a while back, but it's
A MailChimp
yeah,
connector.
it's Mailchimp, and it says right here HTTP connector. So yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, you can MailChimp's HTTP connector would be pretty basic, but you can use HTTP for anything. So I'm sure the guys over at 50 and 50 would have some other use cases for this, but if you want to do anything unique with like multiple applications at once from the website, from a form, you could use HTTP to connect it to all those different applications.
Okay, but can I use a Salesforce connector and for to connect to Salesforce and an HTTP to connect to Mailchimp? Can I use those simultaneously for the same form? Okay.
Yeah, and notice here on the connector, this is the stage in which the form is filled out. So if it's like a multi-step form, maybe you want to pre-fill some data, and there's a lot of documentation on how you can pre-fill. So an example could be like it has to be a multi-page form now, and think back to like I forget which form it was, but maybe at the beginning they choose their region. So the very first page is what city do you live in? Chicago, New York, San Francisco, whatever that is. Those are the options. And then so once they fill that out and hit OK, different fields will pop up and some will be populated with different things. So you could have different options for each one of those different things that they choose, and you can put in pre-fill at the beginning and do that. It's pretty basic, but it does help in some situations. I don't use it very often now. So then you could say, even if they've just filled it out and maybe it's a longer form, and you want them to be able to save their process and still have, once they save the first time, that data still gets submitted into Salesforce, you can add in Salesforce to this. Oh, maybe I can't do that to that one. So yeah, that one I don't ever use. It doesn't really have a lot of use cases. We don't have any like 30-page essay forms that people need to fill out. But most of them are going to be either when they submit it or the post submit. So submit is the very first time they've submitted. Post submit would be everything after everything's been cleared and pushed through, then it goes into the places that you want. But you can add as many connectors to the form as you want. You can add HTTP. We use authorize.net for payment. You can add that in there, and you can add in multiple ones. So you can add in Google Docs, PayPal. You can add as many as you want. So let's just look at this form just to show you another example. So
This
here,
is our chapter form.
yeah, yep. And so you can see we use that update rule where it doesn't just create a new one every time. It looks to see if that contact has an email address in Salesforce, targets that record, and then updates. But if it can't find one, it creates a new one. So then we have these different fields, and these red ones were ones that were taken out. So I should just remove those. And if you ever remove a field from a form, it'll tell you which ones you've removed like this, so that you know which ones you want to remove, just so you don't have them sitting in there anymore. But it doesn't hurt anything if you do have them sitting there. But then you see all the different fields. So their basic contact details, first and last name, and email. But then you have these unique things in there, like it's going to be automatically owned by Tom. So that's Tom's owner ID in there. We know it's a certain type of record type, so that's a unique ID. There's a field.
What is that? What is that record type?
Yeah, good question. So every single record in Salesforce has a record type. So this one is a default record type, but we have ones that are staff. So if we click on this, this is a staff record. But any record that you go to and click a new one, you're going to notice there's record types. So for a campaign, there's events and volunteer campaigns, which track the volunteer hours. Events are for all of our events, and default are just our general fundraising ones, and then corporate partnerships. But every single object has multiple record types. So in your connector, if you wanted to just go in and just fill out the data for the basic default record, then you don't need to put in a record type ID. But if you want to target it for a specific type of record, so maybe you're creating like an event campaign off of this, or you're creating an event guest, those are different record types that you'd have to put in there to make that record automatically go into that record type. So again, that's a little bit more technical, but there might be some use cases where you have that on one of your forms. But just like a general contact form, email update, those types of ones, you don't need to put in a unique record type. It'll just go to the default one and create or update the record from there. But this also works too, that a lot of contacts are created from Stay Classy, and we don't get to choose what record type they are. And so a lot of these chapter contacts are being created from Stay Classy and going in it. They kind of look like a donor because, you know, they're fundraising, they're creating pages. What this will do is this will target their record if it exists, and then switch it over to a chapter member record. And that'll make that record unique just for chapter members. So even if they came in as like a general donor before, this will switch the whole makeup of their record to look like a chapter member. So there's a lot of IDs like that in Salesforce that just make it a little bit more custom. But again, I don't think that you'll have to come across that ever. So that's just a basic one object form. And then again, you can hit save. But one thing to note, and I'll show you this now, is if you want to create a new field in Salesforce, there's something that you'll have to do to get that field to show up in FormAssembly. So maybe you're in a contact record, and again, if you need to create any fields or anything, you won't have to do that. Myra can help you create it, or once they hire a new admin, they can do it too. But maybe you're looking at a staff record or a contact record, and you just don't see a field that you want. So say you want to enter in a new field, or maybe it's just like an interest field, or like on that shift, the student service hour type. What type of service project was it? Those are all examples of new fields that you'd have to create in Salesforce. And again, someone else can help you create them. But once that field exists in Salesforce, in order to get it to show up in your connector, so if you've created a brand new field and you're looking for it in your drop-down menus here in Salesforce, and you don't see it, that means it's not in FormAssembly yet. So all you have to do is click this where it says get new Salesforce objects. Anything new that's created in Salesforce, in order to get to show up in FormAssembly, you just have to do this once. So you click this button, click OK. It takes about 10 seconds. And then it brings in all those new fields and objects and everything from Salesforce.
Okay.
So now when you go in and you look for your field, it'll show up in this list that you can choose from. And then you just click save, and that saves it. But let's look at a multiple object option. Maybe we can do the IWD, I think is one. So let's look at the form. We have them fill out their contact details.
Hey, Eric, real quick before we jump into this, I just want to make sure I don't forget. Do we have is there a form that you've set up for that would be used on the website to connect new chapter leads?
Yeah, we can look at that one.
But yeah, let's look at that one too, because like that's one that I definitely want to get integrated. Like that's kind of like a hot thing that's coming up.
It's called the Build a School form. So this is where I think a lot of them will use chapter, but some of them will be general options for, say, Skylar's contacts, or it could be region specific too. So we have here the group details, which they say what type of group it is.
So this is just like the one that we have on the school page right now. I assume we can, and some of those are going to be chapters that go through it, right? But I think we want to get a form on the chapter page too that will basically do the same thing. So like I could basically like create a copy of this, right, and just like hard take out that visible group type field and just hard. Oh well, I guess I wouldn't take it out. I would just change it to
the type of chapters that they are, high school or college. Yeah. Yep. But this actually works it's a lead form for everyone. It's for chapters.
Yeah.
So depending on what they choose here and where it's located, that says who the owner is or what group it goes to. So they say high school here. Once they type in their state, then it goes to the specific person. If it's an international chapter, it goes to Tom. If it's East Coast, it goes to Jen. If it's West Coast, it goes to Aaron. And that's how that kind of gets set up. If it's a corporate group and then a region, it goes to the specific region. It goes to New York or Chicago or San Francisco based off of the location. But yeah, you could clone this form, just take out corporate, family, or other, and just leave it in high school or college. And then the connector is set up for it already too. So once you get your styling into here, you can put it on the website. So let's look at
that's good.
Connector. So we've got the form here called Build a School. And let's actually just make one for chapters just so it's done. It'll take just a couple seconds. So we'll say copy and open in Form Builder. And then we'll just take out these options here, which are and then that's really all you have to do, because it takes all the form will work exactly the same. It's already set up in the connector, so we'll hit save. Actually, we'll want to stay, and we'll call this chapter lead. And if you want to change like the copy up here for chapter specific too, you could do that, or you could just take it off and put that on the website and not have any copy on here at all.
Okay. Yeah. So the three that I kind of had on my list that we sort of want to knock out right away is for the chapter page. So we've got that. Build a School, that's done. Want to do that general email sign up too, that we use on multiple pages.
Okay.
I'm just kind of thinking out loud here to just to make sure that we cover everything that needs to be done for those.
Yeah, so this is just an example of how this works. Um, it creates the contact, it goes or updates it, creates it the same sort of rules. Um, then we have here is this option that if they opt out, if they choose to opt in, then it does that logic on that checkbox. Same with the opt in field there too. But at the same time, you see it creates a Trek group object, which it does the owner ID based off of the location, the zip code, all those different things. So that's all set up. And the build a school form is the exact same thing. So we have the contact object, the Trek group. Maybe at the same time you wanted to create or update an account, maybe add them as a campaign member to a certain campaign that's going on. You can do a lot with that and continue to just add more connections. But I'll save that.
Okay. Yeah. Do we have anything, like, I don't think we have a form for this, but is there a Salesforce um, object or field right now for uh, corporate partners?
Yep. There is.
Okay.
There's no form, but there's a whole object structure set up. And actually, the person who's managing it is leaving next week too. So that's a good thought.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I can show you that quick. But the way we do corporate partnerships are every every corporation is an account. So they exist in Salesforce already as an account. Maybe it's Humble Bundle, they're doing a corporate partnership, or GE, whoever that may be. That's what you start with. And then, so say, I don't know, there's probably there's so much we can do with the corporate partnership, and it's pretty basic right now. But say they're starting a corporate partnership, there's a couple of things that need to happen. And again, I'm not expecting you to take this on or lead it or anything, but I'll talk to Jay about this and make sure it's handed off. So if they're doing a corporate partnership though, you just add them to a corporate partnership campaign. So we can go in and say, this is a corporate partnership. We just need to select those from both of the menus here, both for the campaign type and for the individual members as part of that campaign. And then hit continue. And then whatever the details are for it, the start and end date, it's already connected to that corporate account, all those different details. And I think there is one in there already. I can't remember what. No, it's not Deutsche Bank.
So I'm like thinking ahead to trying to get a form on the corporate partnership page to take leads. I assume, like, I saw in the Humble Bundle record that we were looking at that it looked like it had like a, primary contact name and stuff like that. So I assume we have like contact information associated with each corporate partner, right?
Yep. Every account usually has a primary contact and then several staff members at that corporation too. So yeah, a good lead form. And I'm just trying to create one that just shows all the corporate partnerships. I think there's only one record in Salesforce now.
There's only one corporate partner
Listed in Salesforce, yeah.
that Humble Bundle one?
No, I just created, that was just an account that I was just showing you an option for. I don't know if Humble Bundle's, I think they're doing one, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so yeah, there's.
I guess this would be like not necessarily like someone who's doing the corporate partnership program, but just a corporate lead. So we have a page on the site that's about corporate partnership, and I just want to try to get a form created that's gonna, create the right records for those and
so
notify the person.
This is a corporate account in Salesforce, and so this is what you'd want your form to do. And we already have the whole lead status set up on here. to be able to say what part of the journey they're in. If you remember back from when we were in New York at the beginning of the year when we kind of set all this up. So basically, there's a lot of different details that you can create from a corporate account. And like some of the event forms did this too. There's a lot of different forms that we've gathered this information, but we don't just have like a straightforward account lead form. The build a school form does the sort of the same thing, but again, that's targeted to building a school. So if this is just like a general corporate account and maybe they put in their interests, you could do that and collect all those details. But this would be a good example from like a quick import form from that first step I showed you, where maybe you want to just collect their account name, the region that they're a part of. And again, you don't have to have them fill that out, but based off of what state they choose, you can then say whether it's, you know, Boston, Chicago chapters, Detroit, New York, San Francisco, or if it's like a specific program partner or anything like that, you could do that as well. But then you have the different account types. So maybe it's a foundation or a government group, or it's a corporation or a high school or a university or a potential service partner. You have all those options in there as well. But then this is where you get to the lead status for how the development team uses it. So first is their prospect level. So, and again, I don't know that you'd be asking them this up front, but then on the connector side, you can maybe say what this is. Or maybe this could just be done after the account's created. Once the development team looks at it, or whoever's managing the account makes that decision. So you have the prospect level, but then this is what the journey. So basically all new leads would come in as awareness, and then they would work them down the line. So if your lead form is creating a brand new account, you'd want to just set the corporate journey stage at awareness. And then you can collect their billing address. You can collect contact details for staff members that are on their team. And you can also designate one of those persons as the primary contact via a form. So do you want to just set one of these up quick?
Yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we try to do that corporate lead form then?
Yeah, let's do that. So we'll do import a form just so we can. Actually, we already did that one. We'll start one from scratch. It's just as quick. So we can just start, we'll put a section in here just to keep things organized. So we know we're going to have several questions. So we can say company name. Maybe we'll put in a drop-down menu there for organization type, or you want this to be just a corporate lead, not foundation, government, or school?
Yeah, I think it'd be corporate.
Okay, so we'll say company name, and that'll be their account name. And again, we can clean this up after, but let's just get all the fields in there. So maybe we'll do the region off of their address. We'll do everyone as awareness. We'll do everyone as corporation. So really it's just about some basics. Or let's say street address, city. We can actually do that as a drop down. So that would just be basic contact details for the corporation, but then you can put in other descriptors like how they want to get involved, other things. I can't even think of them off the top of my head. So we have, so maybe we'll want phone, website, maybe. Although those aren't really, but the phone will be on the contact. So yeah, let's just add another section in there. So we'll do first and last name. Work email. Work phone. Title. So you've also maybe noticed when you've created some of these forms, you can kind of preset the type of data that needs to be in these. So you can say that this is an email.
Yep. Yeah. So a lot of this, I think I'm pretty good on.
Yeah. So we'll leave that. So this is really, really basic, but again, you can expand on it, but we can just go through connecting this and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so we have name, address. I think that's really it. I mean, we can clean it up and make it look nicer and move fields around and whatnot, but let's go ahead and connect this.
Is there anything that we have with corporate records with like size of, like, number of employees? Is that something that's in Salesforce?
We don't have that, but I mean, you can easily add that.
Yeah. Yeah, let's just leave it for now. And I think, based on this, if it's something that gets added in Salesforce, I think I think I'm on my way to understanding what we need to do to then, like, add an additional field and add that.
It's really, really easy to add a new field. And again, Myra can help you with this, but you just go to the object that you want and click view fields.
Got it.
And then go down to new. And then you just choose your question type, whether it's a text box or a pick list or a checkbox. And then you'll go through and create the field, and then you'll say, do I want this to show up on all the record types or just specific record types? And then once you set it up on the record types that you want, you go into page layouts and say, okay, well, I set up fields for just a general organization or for a chapter or for a USP school. Then you can go in and that field will be in there, and then you can move it around to where you want. But again, Myra can definitely help you out with that. And I actually have it in the operations manual too, how to add a field.
Okay, great.
So now that we have that form, so let's save it. Let's actually delete this. Call it corporate lead. So then we'll go into the connectors, and then we'll drag in Salesforce. Then this is where you have to type in the details. But I'm going to get this so you don't have to do this. Oops. So this one, we're going to have two objects. We're going to have the account and the contact. And we want all the contacts that get created off of this to be linked to that account. So we're going to look up or create the account first. And then based off of that account, we're going to attach those contacts that are created to that account. So we'll go in and we'll say account, we'll update an existing record just in case an old account comes in. We'll just do it off of the account name, company name, and we'll just do the basic matching rules. If more than one record is created or found, we'll just create a new one. So then we'll go in and add the fields. So we've got the name, which is the account name. Then we've got the street, which if you look at an account, that's the billing address. So you'll then go on and see billing street. So we want billing street. We'll confirm those. And we find billing city. And then billing state. And that's it. So that's our account. And then, so what this next step is how you want it to link. So if you just do it here, you won't have to go and say add an object on based off of the account. You won't have to go in and do that drop down and select like the account name on the contact record. If you did click this button, then on the contact record, you'd have to create a field for account and then link it back up to this record that was created above. But when we click this one, you don't have to do that. It just links it automatically.
Okay.
So we're going to say contact. And then this is where it says what references the account. And we'll say the account ID. This is the first one. And we'll actually update because maybe some of these corporate contacts have already existed as contacts that have built on. Maybe they've just been a donor for someone or attended an event. So they might already have a contact record in Salesforce. So we'll just do the basic email one. And then we'll say email. And then that's it. And then we do our mapping just like above. So we'll do first name. And sometimes this gets a little, sometimes I create forms where there's like 200 questions and I have to do this and it gets kind of old. So just be mindful of that. If you're creating a really big form, just make sure you carve out enough time to do it.
Yeah.
And if you're on a page for like 20 minutes, you might lose some of the work you do. So if you're on this page for a really long time, just come back and hit save. And that way you won't lose your work. So we'll actually go down to work email here. Okay, confirm. Everything's good. So then what we want to do, if we look at an account record and a contact record, there's all these different things that are happening. We want to put in the corporate journey. We want to put in the region, and we want to put in the owner. So we'll do those. So we'll say corporate journey. We know that we want all of them to equal awareness. We want to set up the region, which we can do that based off of the state. So this is where this comes in handy. And again, you have your options over here. So let's go through and say which all the ones are that we want to have be San Francisco. And I just do it based off of really just geographical region in the US. So if it's West Coast, I do San Francisco. And I won't make you watch all this. And then you just go down the line like that. And then I would actually have to do the same thing for owner. And I would do the owner based off of the state. And then I would put in those owner IDs for each one of the states, and I'll go in and do that. And then we have, okay, yeah, that's it. But I noticed that when we created this, we didn't do one thing, which is allow for them to add in multiple staff members.
As in terms of contacts?
Yeah, yep.
Maybe.
Or maybe you just want to keep it at primary?
Yeah, let's just keep it at primary for now, yeah. Yeah, I'll let the development rep do that follow-up.
Okay. So,
because and with some of these too, like I'm not sure how it's going to work when we try to like style. I assume it's going to be fine to style conditional, forms with conditional fields, but
yeah, I agree.
For this first round of those that we want to swap out or add to the site, I'd kind of like them to not have conditional, just
cool.
So we can tackle that later.
So we want to say that person below is the primary contact, though.
Yeah.
And we'll actually have to do another one just to do that, because the contact is below. We want to reference that contact ID. So we're going to have to do another account below, which is just look up a record. We'll say account ID equals the account above. And we just want to look it up. We're not going to, we are going to update it. Never mind, because we're going to update one field. And then we're going to put in the primary contact. And for some reason, there's two there. Contact, we'll do it for both of them. Okay. I'll come back and I'll update the region and owner IDs, so it'll take a little bit of time. But other than that, that form's good to go.
Great. What about if we have a form like that, notifying the development lead?
Yeah, that's a good point. So if you noticed on that, I had it go into a region or an owner, and based off of that, there's a lot of different things you can do with it. So anytime a new account is created, you can have it send a message to that owner, that who's been assigned to that account based off of the location and whatnot. And so you could have it fire off an email to notify them and send them a message. That's one option. Another option could be there's like a dashboard, and this is what we do with chapters. So we actually have a chapter lead form, or we do have a chapter lead form. I don't know why I created that new one. They're already using it, and they just send it out on. That one would be the public facing one, but they have one that they have for their own internal.
Okay.
So this would be an example of another way. So you could have it set up off of like a number of prospects per owner, and for the whole
on the dashboard.
Yeah, so that's.
I think in the case of this corporate one, since the lead volume, the lead volume is going to be pretty low, I'm sure, but these are important leads, so I think an email notification would be best.
Okay, let's set that up. So we can actually just do that. It's called a process builder or flow. And I have a bunch that we use. So we'll just create a new one that says corporate lead. Notify account. We'll say account. So this will only happen when it gets created from that form. So someone could go in and create one on their own and they wouldn't have to get notified. So we'll say corporate journey, choose. Notify owner. I forgot, I need to create a really quick email template.
You still there, Eric?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's cool. Just got like a big wave of static. I think you just need to fix the spelling of corporate there. Add that R.
There we go. We'll just put it in some of these fields that we gathered. Let's say company name, city, region. There we go. We can add more to that too.
Cool.
Is it really going to make me quit out of that to get it? All right, let's create a task. Okay. I don't know why it's not showing up. I might have to do it the old-fashioned way, but I'll take care of that.
Okay, cool.
So
hey, one thing I was thinking about too, like, yeah, so really the only like form that we didn't really tackle here is just, the general email sign up form, which is pretty, it's pretty simple, first, last email address. I'm just trying to think of like how we, how that record should be created in Salesforce. If we're setting up something like that, and I know, so right now, the forms that we have on the site link directly to MailChimp, and then MailChimp passes into Salesforce. But one of the fields that we pass into MailChimp is the page that that the user signed up from. And the idea there is that, that page can tell us a little bit for segmentation, right? Because we have like, we have that form like on the home page, on the US programs page, city pages, the IP page, country pages.
So what I would do for that is I would just create the one form first, whatever your base page is. And then I would just duplicate it. So we could use this corporate lead one as an example.
Yeah.
So you're not editing anything on the front facing part of the form.
Yeah.
But in the connector, when you go into the connector, I think that's an old page. That's why it's not showing up. So in the connector for this, you would just duplicate this. Say one of them would be like maybe a region specific page. Maybe they're going to Chicago. So then when you go into your connector for that form, for your duplicates, maybe your base one, it just goes to a general owner or general region or something. But maybe once you do like your pages, then you could have like the region be something, or you can have a field for whatever that is in MailChimp where you're collecting that data. That could be what the data is you collect. And then just create a different form for each one of your pages. And you just have to clone it and then edit that field on the connector for what makes it different.
Okay.
So yeah, there's that. And I mean, if you want to just give me the requirements on it too, I can get it set up for you and we can go before I leave. It sounds like it's pretty basic.
Yeah, it should be pretty basic. I think that's what I'll do. I'll just shoot you over those requirements.